recording.
Okay.
I just have a couple questions for you, if you don't mind. It's like just the interview, and then that's it. We'll be done. Okay. So I wanted to get teachers from all different grades, so this is very helpful. All right. I just have 8 questions. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
All right. Perfect. How do you communicate with your students, the parents, and your colleagues?
Okay, one at a time, I assume. Well, at the beginning of the year, I usually create a letter where I introduce myself and I let the parents know the various ways that they can contact me. And that's usually through the agenda or an email, and I promise to get back with them hopefully the same day, if not within 24 hours. Communicate with students. I would say it begins with also the beginning of the year, establishing no more than 5 rules in the classroom and I try to let them think they're helping me create them, but I have a basic 5 for them to just obey quickly, whatever my request is, to raise their hand to speak, stay in their seat. So I communicate in the beginning to establish structure, and that way they understand if they need to talk to me, raise their hand. And so there's so many forms of communication for various different things. Sometimes I let them come up 3 at a time if they're needing help and we're doing some independent yet work that I can help them with. And communicate with rewards. Usually have a reward system, positive behavior.
I know the mock points is one of their reward systems.
At this school, yes. I'm new to this school, and since I'm not officially teaching at this school, but that's my experience.
Okay.
Just, I usually have a treasure box, and
yeah.
And so that's the ways that I communicate with students and parents. I'm not sure if that's specifically what you meant. I think the greatest communication is making it very clear at the beginning of the year and letting them know, what do I do for this? What do I do for that? And then letting them know if they need to talk to me, that making them feel safe, that they could communicate with me. I've seen a lot in 15 years.
I can imagine. All right. So our next question is, what are your favorite classroom strategies for student learning and for classroom management?
Well, classroom strategies, group work, small groups, where the teacher can facilitate, but that the students are exploring their learning.
Right.
And establishing discussions and small groups. How do I get into a small group, especially if it's first grade or primary, which I taught mostly primary, even though I've taught all grades. And so small group, a good strategy for learning. Gosh, that works for reading groups, alone with the teacher. That works for working about writing, when you want to just correct maybe 2 things on their writing and encourage them. Just feedback, giving the students feedback.
Okay. Great. What information can you provide me on the Florida system for school improvement and accountability?
Okay, ask that again.
What information can you provide me about the Florida system for school improvement and accountability?
Florida system school improvement
and accountability.
Improvement and accountability. I'm not real sure exactly what you're asking me.
I won't lie to you. These are written up for me, so it's kind of asking, how does the Florida system help your students improve and you improve, and like account for your work and their
Oh,
work?
oh, okay, yes. I would say that would be professional development, where you have to have so many points accumulated to continue your state licensing.
Hmm.
And we do a SIP plan, which is a school improvement plan, the beginning of every year. And sometimes you have your group that is a part of that. I was a part of creating a discipline school-wide plan over
Okay.
summer in one of my schools. And accountability is collecting data. Um, the Florida system requires a lot of data on students. What did you do when you discovered their need? How did you address it? And keeping records.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much. All right, so our next question is, how do you collect and use data from formative and summative assessments to monitor learning gains and student progress? Like, so formative and summative is kind of like pre-tests and like
Mhm.
actual tests, and then how do you monitor their gains and the progress of the students?
Well, um, I know that the District of Hillsborough County, I'm not sure with Polk or if it's a Florida thing, but it is considered a great thing to see gains in students. And they'll do it. It's very, to me, it's very complicated. I have some colleagues, they learned it and they could teach it, but it's a little difficult because you have to have so many students that made gains. And if this student didn't make gains, this is
Hmm.
what's required, and this one point. And so it's quite a complicated system, but collecting data is a general rule for a good teacher so that you see where are your students and what do they need, not just for the score of
Right.
the school and the state, but because your heart wants to see the children grow. So collecting that data, even daily, like you said, informative, walking by and a quick little anecdotal note, but then sometimes you just know in your head, these are my four that need help, how are they
Hmm.
doing? Or and just keeping track what the needs are and addressing it.
Right. Okay, great. And how do you align your formative and summative assessments with the standards? So like the Florida standards?
Well, I've taught at two different times where we read the standards. I was team leader at the time and we had the standards, but then we created lessons to match. That
Hmm.
was It was quite fun, actually. And but a lot of work.
Hmm.
And over the past couple of years, at least in Hillsborough, and I'm pretty sure in Polk County, I have a lot of friends in Polk County. Um, they give you almost word for word. There's positive in that because it makes your work a little bit easier. It's almost scripted. This
Hmm.
is what you need to teach. This is when it needs to be done. But at the same time, that's the difference in county and private school. Like Roberts Academy is wonderful. We
Hmm.
have more liberty to
Right.
work with where the children are and not pressure and go at their pace, that kind of thing. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. And then we have three more questions. So you're my last person to interview. So I use your classroom as an example for this. So I kind of already
Okay.
have this answer, but I'm going to ask you anyway. So tell me about your use of multisensory instruction to improve
Mm.
student achievement. I told them about like your past, present, and future and how they write out their letters and all that stuff. If you just want to explain that a little bit more for me.
Okay, that was just for the OG or how we use multisensory.
In anything, I just use that as an example for multisensory.
Okay, well, I guess it's a little self-explanatory. But it is complicated too. what can you do? What project? What can you implement where the students have a visual? Maybe it's an anchor chart on the wall. We just maybe taught math or just taught a particular word family or science, and you have a anchor chart on the wall that they can refer to. I use technology. Some kids all about technology, and sometimes we might do like in OG at Roberts Academy, they do air writing when they're practicing their handwriting or practicing a phonics sound. They say it, and when they say it, they also hear it. So they see it. If they're on the desk counter, they're feeling it, see, hear, feel, and say just all several different things. And also with math, if you use manipulatives, it's so fascinating to watch them figure out a concept with manipulatives.
Okay, thank you. How does the standards you teach affect the scope and sequence of your curriculum?
Well, you try to line them up. You try to line up the scope and sequence with what the state is asking or requiring. It just might be your own, it is private school or a school like this, it just might be tweaked on how you teach it or how you present it, as opposed to some of those curriculums that they almost scripted. So do you want to repeat the question if I didn't answer that? What was the question?
No, I think you
Okay,
answered
okay.
it pretty well. Our next one kind of also has to do with that, and it's to what level does the scope and sequence of your standard-based curriculum drive your instruction decisions? So that's kind of also what you were just talking about, but how does it drive you as a teacher to make your decisions?
Honestly, I think you've got to have some kind of scope and sequence so that you know the direction that you're going. I mean,
Right.
if I came in as a teacher and I didn't know, well, what is expected for third grade? No matter how many years I've been teaching, when I first moved to a new grade, I had to look at that as, well, what is expected here? Where do I need to take the children? And I cannot emphasize enough the importance of high standards. Children love it. They don't even realize they love high standard, but they do. And if I see someone that isn't giving, that's making it too easy, and I mean, I had that issue before, like you want to feed it to your low children. But, and there is a time for that gradual release, but I just think it's so important with those standards, monitoring how much your kids can handle, what they're ready for. You don't want to frustrate them, but just boy, putting it all together, the standards, the scope and sequence, when to teach what, when to hold back and reteach.
Right. All right. Well, that was my last question. Thank you so
Thank
much. I
you.
really appreciate it.
Oh, it was